Yeah. Last one was good.
No strings on.
Yeah. Um. It's sort of five.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is interesting, but we usually go out at five, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just need form, just like more, I'll start.
Five, 2 minutes, let me get my audio up.
We'll be going live in 2 minutes as soon as there is a quorum.
Yeah. Nothing you can do about delays.
Yeah. Makes it better, yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I now call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of Oak Grove School District on October 17, 2024 at 5 p.m. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the agenda as submitted.
I second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, the agenda has now been approved as submitted. The board will at this time recess to close session to discuss public employee performance and evaluation of the superintendent, public employee discipline, release and dismissal, government code section 5495.7, and confer with labor negotiator. Persons wishing to address the board on closed session items may use the raise your hand option in Zoom to speak. Please reference the agenda item in your public comment and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone to speak on the closed session items?
Nobody at this time.
Okay. And seeing none in public, we will now recess to closed session and we will return at approximately 6 p.m. Thank you so much.
I came out of here.
Yes. So, yeah, what, I just requested it. Sorry. Sorry. Thank you so much.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started, everyone. Welcome to the regular board meeting of October 17th, 2024. There are many opportunities for the public to address the board, public comment, or during a specific agenda item. If you wish to speak to the board, please complete a request to speak card at the front and provide it to the recording secretary. If you are joining the meeting on Zoom, please select the raise your hand feature in order to have your name called when the agenda item is reached. In-person speakers will be called to the podium first, followed by Zoom attendees. When it is your turn to speak, you will have 3 minutes to speak. The Brown Act governs meetings of governmental bodies in California. Your comments to the board must be specific to the agenda item you are addressing. If there is no specific item, you are welcome to present comments during public comment. Please note you are attending a public meeting of the Board of Trustees doing the public's business. This is not a public forum for public debate. At this time, I would like to invite our newly appointed trustee, Nancy Yu, to the front of the dais for her ceremonial oath, which will be administered by her husband, Mr. Jason Yu. Congratulations, Member Yu. Next, we will have Member Pacheco. Will you please provide us the land acknowledgement?
We are on Muwekma Ohlone land, which is unceded territory, and the historical land of the people that have been here since time immemorial. And we owe this community and all Indigenous peoples honor and collaboration, as well as respect, especially as we endeavor to sustain our lands, to protect our community, as well as to teach their history, past, present, and future, to our students. And so with that, I conclude my land acknowledgement.
Thank you so much, Member Pacheco. Superintendent Chaides, will you please lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Chaides, and you may begin with your superintendent's report.
Thank you, Board President Gonzalez. Good evening, everyone. Bienvenidos. Happy 45th day of school. 45 days going by fast. So thank you to everyone. This week, we celebrate our administrators. It's the week of the school administrators, and just want to thank them all for their dedication, their leadership. They play a vital role in supporting all of our students, all of our staff, our parents, our communities. So just thank you to all leadership team for your commitment and creating a positive environment at your sites and departments. This Saturday, we're going to celebrate our 23rd annual Hispanic Latinx Student Recognition Ceremony, and we will be celebrating 847 students from the grades 6 and 8th. The students have been selected to receive a recognition. And they received this from the nominations from their school sites, their teachers and principals. This ceremony is sponsored by Allied, which is our African American Latino leaders. Allied is committed to early recognition of students within the Hispanic Latinx community who are succeeding in school and are contributing to the understanding of the Latinx experience. So thank you to Allied for your leadership. And we look forward to celebrating this Saturday, starting at 10:30, or whenever you show up, 11. We'll be there. 10:30 to 3. Okay, so we'll see you there at Calvary Chapel. So thank you. Victory Outreach, thank you. Okay, coffee and conversation with the superintendent. I was able to host my first community coffee and conversations event. It was so big that we had to reserve the Santa Teresa Public Library. Normally, it's a little group of like 15, 20. This group was not that, it was 80 to 100 people, so we had a great conversations, great turnout, meaningful discussions, and valuable feedback. I really appreciate feedback. So thank you to everyone that showed up. We also look forward to continuing these conversations. Our next one is going to be over at the Edenville Library. So we're going to go off of Monterey Road, and we're going to go out there and have another great coffee and conversations. Also, the same day, I was able to visit Indigo program with President Gonzalez, and we were invited by their new student council. They had a proposal for us. And so they have 3 new school council reps. So we sat down and had a conversation with them. Very impressed with their proposal. So now as a follow-up, this Monday, our CBO, Associate Superintendent Mark Evans, our Chief Operation Officer, and I will be going back to Indigo to now review their proposal to let them know, is this allowed by the state or not? And then have that conversation. So what a great learning experience. After Indigo, President Gonzalez and I got on our car and we went down Santa Teresa and went to visit Baldwin. So we wanted to go check in on Baldwin and see how they were doing. So we also visit classrooms. This was all on the same day after our community event. This week, we were over at Santa Teresa for our executive team visit. We also visited Bernal Intermediate last week. And then after our Santa Teresa visit this Tuesday, we went over to Oak Ridge and delivered a bunch of pizzas, cookies, salads for the staff for being one of the winners of the Spirit Award at our August Welcome Back event. The next school we're going to be going to is Del Roble. Del Roble is going to have they're also an award winner. Baldwin also won an award, so they got their pizza party. And then Herman, they won a contest, so they had cookies and coffee. So another great way to just promote the spirit at our Welcome Back event. This morning, we had at 10:17 a.m. the Great Shakeout, and this is statewide on October 17th at 10:17. And safety is a big priority. It's our top priority for all of our employees and all of our students. So I want to thank all of the staff, teachers, the principals who led this emergency plan. Thank our facilities team, everyone working together. We never know when there's going to be a big emergency. And what we're doing is trying to be as ready as possible and put those protocols in place. So thank you, team, for coming together during this important safety drill. Some exciting news. Santa Clara County Teacher of the Year Award winners. I'm not sure if you know, there's 32 districts in Santa Clara County. So we're one of 32 districts. This year, we're going to have 3 teachers recognized for Teacher of the Year awards. And this is happening on Monday. Monday's going to be a busy day. So this year on Monday, over at the Campbell Heritage Theater, we're going to be recognizing 3 of our teachers for Teacher of the Year awards. So we're going to recognize Mrs. Bosworth, who retired this past year. She was a teacher at Anderson Elementary for K-1 special day class. This also recognizing for the STEM Innovation in STEM Award, Ms. Heather Sampson, 6th grade teacher at Baldwin. That's a cool one. Nice. Congratulations, Ms. Sampson. And I was able to go take a picture with her. And recently, Santa Clara County Federal Union Arts Leadership Award, Mr. Kevin McCullough, who is one of our district visual and performing arts music teacher. Congratulations, Kevin. What a Well, we're gonna have a great time on this Monday at the Campbell Heritage Theater. Please join us in celebrating their remarkable achievements. And now, for the moment many of you are here for, I'm excited to present the recipients of the Innovative Spirit Vision Awards. So the criteria for the Innovative Spirit Vision Awards is that they implement change, that they engage in collaborative relationships to promote a dynamic environment, that they create projects that exceed conventional standards, and last, that they inspire change and risk-taking. So these individuals are getting this award because they're innovative and they promote change. So I would like for the Board of Trustees to please come up in front of the dais because we're going to be greeting them, taking a picture, and shaking their hands. And at this time, I'm going to ask Associate Superintendent Bowles if she can please read the names of the Vision Award recipients. And I believe there's some that are online, but we'll virtually say hi to them. But if you're here, you're going to shake our hands and take a picture. Okay, thank you.
All right, so first, recognizing from Baldwin Elementary School, third and fourth grade teacher Alan Cotton. And- All right. And don't go far, we're gonna take a group photo right at the end. Also from Baldwin Elementary School, first grade teacher Kristen Weiss. From Christopher Elementary School, fifth and sixth grade teacher Eileen Castaneda. Also from Christopher School, one-on-one instructional assistant Cynthia Seja. From Davis Intermediate School, school counselor Jose Rodriguez. And also from Davis Intermediate School, school counselor Sue Stapleton. From Del Roble Elementary School, kindergarten, two-way bilingual immersion teacher Alejandra Martinez. From Edenville Elementary, third grade dual language teacher Tony Carides. From Educational Services, school counselor and licensed marriage and family therapist Jimmy Brown. Also from Educational Services, Lead District Nurse Catherine Lee. From Educational Services, School Link Services Coordinator and Community Liaison 2, Sochi Macias. From Educational Services and also supporting her school site in the Davis Learning Community, Lead School Secretary from the Davis Learning Community, Maria Mesa. Maria is the secretary at Edenville, but is the lead school secretary for the Davis Learning Community. Educational Services also wants to recognize the lead school secretary from the Burnell Learning Community, the secretary at Santa Teresa Elementary School, Cheryl Snyder. Educational Services would also like to recognize lead school secretary from the Herman Learning Community, also the secretary at Frost Elementary School, Kaylee Sestata. From Frost Elementary School, third grade teacher, Deborah Torrens. From Hayes Elementary School Boys and Girls Club Unit Director, Denny Reyes. From Herman Intermediate and the Adventure Program, Biliterate School Secretary, Maria Medrano. And also from Herman Intermediate and the Adventure Program, U.S. History and Leadership teacher, Michelle Trejo. From Human Resources, Confidential Administrative Secretary, Yolanda Hernandez. From Ledesma Elementary, Home and School Club President, Desiree Major. From Oak Ridge Elementary, third grade teacher, Olena McClin. From Sakamoto Elementary School, first and second grade special day class teacher, Lynette Miranda. From Santa Teresa Elementary School, first grade teacher, Allison Rice. From STEAM at Stipe Elementary School, kindergarten teacher Mateo Enna. And from Taylor Elementary School, kindergarten teacher Debbie Cogliandro. And lastly, from Taylor Elementary School, kinder and first grade teacher Tracy Matsui. All right, so we're gonna ask everybody, all of our award winners to come on up for a big group picture. If you have your certificates, bring them up, show them off. If you have some other swag and flowers, bring them up and show them off. Thank you so much. Come on in. Don't be shy. All right, please join me in one last big round of applause for all of our Innovative Spirit Vision Award winners.
Can I take one more? Cause I couldn't see my person, my picture. Awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You'll be doing it here? Congratulations.
Congratulations to all of our award members. At this time, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. We will go ahead and get started. So the board met in closed session to discuss public employee performance evaluation of the superintendent, and no action was taken. Public employee discipline, release, and dismissal, government code section 5495-7, and no action was taken. And confer with labor negotiator, and no action was taken. At this time, we will go ahead and move to public comment. This is an opportunity for individuals to address the board on any school-related issue that is not a part of this evening's agenda. There are many individuals, if there are there any individuals who wish to speak at this time? First up, we have Janae Pierre.
Hello. I'm not so familiar on how to address you all except hello. And my name is Janae Pierre. I'm a first grade teacher at Sakamoto. And I hate to be a wet blanket on the party. I was happy to celebrate everybody. But I am also here to be honest and speak from my heart. I had a very wise friend of mine say, if you don't speak up, then don't complain. So here I am. You give us the opportunity. I want to address the outrageous health increase that's being proposed to teachers effective January. I feel like a captive. I feel trapped. I feel stuck. We are being presented with, well, if I look at the Kaiser rates and what was presented, a near $450 to $500 per month increase. And I don't know, I can't make up money. I can't bring $500 from nowhere. I don't have the capacity or the means to pay that. I'm a single income in trying to make ends meet in San Jose. I have two young adult children, not children, two young adults who I'm still supporting and helping launch. And we are covered as a family. I've been teaching 9 years, so, 9 years of history on the salary chart. So I'm really in quite a predicament. I love what I do. I love children. I love teaching. I love loving children and their families. But it really puts me in a position of being forced out of something I love to do. And we were given an increase, but now I'm in a deficit position. That increase makes no impact whatsoever. And I'm actually in the red, below I was last year. So we're actually regressing and digressing and losing the benefits that we thought we were getting or the salary increases that we bargained for. And I have to tell you that I'm really disappointed. I'm really not in you as humans, but as an organization, I am highly disappointed that we're here. I feel disrespected. I feel like somehow it's being very irresponsible to give employees 2 months notice and say, okay, your benefits are going up $400, $500 a month and, figure it out. And then also I don't feel cared for as an employee of this district and a teacher who shows up with my heart every day to love and care and teach our future. I don't feel cared for as a human being, that my family, my own family, is on the line. So I would ask you to consider this and do what you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Carolyn Verdugo.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Chidas. My name is Carolyn Verdugo, and I'm a teacher at Frost Elementary. I'm speaking to you tonight because I am very concerned about the increased cost of our health benefits. Kaiser going up by 17% and United Health going up by 20% is going to be very difficult to manage in this upcoming year. I have an upcoming surgery that will require me to be out of the classroom for 2 months. Now I not only have to worry about a reduction in pay if I don't have enough sick days, but also paying 23% more monthly for health benefits. This increase will be a considerable financial burden on the employees of this district. Please, I ask that you work with the bargaining team and vote in favor for a memo of understanding that the district will contribute a larger portion to offset this substantial increase. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Next we have Bob Perla. You put Robert. Confused them.
Good evening, administration and board of trustees. So I want to pose a question to you. If you give a teacher a raise, that's a good thing, right? But if they then have to pay that raise into their health care, did they really get a raise? I just want you to kind of consider that for a little while. In Oak Grove School District, when our benefits increase by this amount and it comes out of our pocket, it hurts our ability to attract and retain teachers, right? It's a real cut in pay for all of us come January 1. And I really am concerned about the newer teachers near the bottom end of the pay scale and those that have families near the bottom end of the pay scale. Why would they stay in a district that doesn't have fully covered benefits or that is increasing when the benefits are increasing to such a drastic degree as is about to happen in Oak Grove? So one of the things we need to do going forward is we need to radically redefine the way we do benefits in this district. So we know there's an MOU on the table about helping out with healthcare benefits for January 1 to June, but the bargaining team is going to be meeting with the district team very soon. In the next few months, they're going to start. We need to radically rethink the way we do health benefits in this district and try to come to a way that we're not at risk every single year of getting an automatic pay cut come January 1 because Kaiser makes a non-transparent decision, right? So that's what I want you to think about. Think about recruitment and retention. How are you going to hire people? How are you going to retain people in one of the highest cost of living areas in the United States of America? So thank you for your time. And please remember that question. If you give teachers a raise, but they just pay it out in their health benefits, is it really a raise? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob. Do we have any online comments at this time?
No public comment.
Okay. With that, we will go ahead and close public comment and move on to bargaining unit comment. OGA, would you like to kick this off?
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Good evening, executive team. I want to begin by recognizing the tremendous hard work that has gone into the Together We Rise campaign. This initiative, which features employees from all corners of our district, has showcased the unity and dedication that makes our community stronger. It is truly inspiring to see everyone come together. Next, I want to express our gratitude for the continued efforts in improving Baldwin's school's HVAC system. While we understand it's still in process, we appreciate the progress made so far. It's important that we maintain a proactive approach, especially as changes in the weather can interfere with heating in our classrooms. Anticipating these challenges and addressing them swiftly will ensure a comfortable learning environment for our students and teachers in the winter. I also want to highlight that 8 of our teachers recently attended the Region 1 CTA conference, where they focused on improving communication, negotiation, and planning for retirement. This professional development opportunity is a vital step in empowering our educators with the skills and knowledge they need to continue delivering excellence in our classroom. On behalf of our members, I'd like to thank HR and the Benefits Committee for the ongoing discussions around mitigating health insurance costs. Appreciate the extra time given to inform our members, allowing them the space to discuss implications and make informed decisions. Having an MOU that mitigates these rising costs is crucial, and it's important that we continue striving for affordable healthcare options. Attracting new educators and retaining the incredible talent that we have is dependent on our ability to provide benefits that support them. I hear from teachers consistently about the need to get us back into a better healthcare pool. And this is an issue we must prioritize. In terms of political engagement, I'd like to acknowledge the work of our Political Action Committee. They've been active in supporting candidates who align with our mission of serving our communities, putting students at the center, and supporting teachers. Our members have been enthusiastically working and participating in canvassing, honk and wave events, and other activities to ensure that our voices are heard. As we look forward, there's a lot of excitement around the AB Day. A lot of teachers are eager to dive deeper into the Envision math program and collaborate with their colleagues to maximize the potential of this new adoption. This is an exciting time for professional growth, and we're looking forward to seeing how this program enhances teaching and learning in our district. I had the opportunity to visit Stipe this week. It was wonderful to speak with teachers about their experiences this year. While they are enthusiastic about the new programs and the modernization efforts, I also heard concerns regarding safety. Other sites have reported this as well. Specifically, the systems in place to de-escalate situations with students who have behavior plans or who don't have plans yet, but display aggressive behavior. It is crucial that we pay attention not only to mild to moderate SDC classes, but also to general ed classes, where extreme behavior can disrupt or even traumatize the entire classroom and affect teachers who are trying to help the de-escalation. We are actively engaged in conversations with Ed Services and exploring the next steps to involve the community and staff at Edenvale and Christopher schools. Now, it's the time to begin forming a community school steering committee to ensure collaborative decision-making and a shared decision process vision for the future. Our negotiations team met this week to discuss our goals for upcoming negotiations. Key areas of focus include the preamble, leaves, transfers, salary, benefits, hours of employment, class size, and importantly, safety. We're already begun requesting data from HR and benefits. Thank you so much. We anticipate that negotiations could begin in November or December. And we're committed to ensuring a fair process for all. That concludes my report. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. CSEA?
Good evening, board and superintendent. I'm gonna try to be real quick. I just wanted to say, I know I've given praise to HR like at 2 meetings already, and but I'm gonna do it again. When they took over, when Amy and Mark took over, I was confident that they'd be good, but I was worried about transition. And so far, Amy and Mark have done a great job, and at least in terms of dealing with CSEA, it hasn't really slowed us down at all. So we were able to work on an MOU for our IAs. I brought a need to them. They responded pretty quickly. We came up with a pretty good temporary solution. I don't think it's the long-term solution, but it's really good for the short term. And they're already moving on, working with me towards a long-term solution. On the other topic, I have the same concerns about healthcare as well. Kaiser's raised the rates pretty significantly the last 2 years. But I also want to point out, I appreciate the district 2 years in a row, you've offered an amount to help not cover the whole thing, but you've contributed more beyond what we bargained for, and I appreciate the goodwill gesture, and I believe it was in good faith. And but it will be a big bargaining issue at the next bargaining on how do we deal with it long term. And the benefits committee, I know they're already moving towards meeting with vendors to talk about different pool options and that type of thing. And it is important that we keep moving in that direction. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. And I don't believe we have ASME present. So we will go ahead and close out bargaining unit comment, and we can move to consent agenda, consent agenda. Superintendent Chidas, will you brief for that?
Thank you, President Gonzalez. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I second. May we have a roll call? Oh, is there any board discussion? Great.
Thank you, Costco, for their donation.
Ah,
Yeah, I saw that they donated to support our homeless and foster youth and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. So thank you.
amazing. Thank you so much. May we please have a roll call vote?
Member Yu,
Aye.
Member Martinez.
Aye.
Member Pacheco,
Aye.
Vice President Hernandez,
Aye.
President Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. This brings us to item number 6, action items. Superintendent Chidas.
Thank you, President Gonzalez. Similar to what we have done in the past, because of the next 4 items are similar in nature, I would like to request from the board to bundle agenda items 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4, as we've done in the past, with one motion. And each item will be presented by Associate Superintendent Evans before the vote.
Are there any opposed to this? Okay, we can go ahead and move on.
Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Chides. Thank you, Board of Trustees. I wanted to present to you 4 items that relate to our bond program, Measure P. The first one is to engage ADIS architects to start addressing the modernization plans for Baldwin. Baldwin Elementary dates back to 1970, and its last modernization was in 2002. We've done work on the streetscape and the HVAC now and the roofing, but we want to get to those classrooms, which was the focus of our bond. So the design team will start working on interiors, figuring out how to create autonomous classrooms that can be closed down individually, and so those wide open spaces that lead to the hallway will be able to be more secure. And we'll be working with the site to develop those changes and address those needs, and then provide all the new furniture and the pilot program items that ESD has been working on with technology and furniture. So we'll be engaging ADIS to do the design for that. The total project budget for Baldwin will be slightly under $10 million. And the contract for ADIS, generally typically 10%, $938,000 is the contract for ADIS Architects and Baldwin. Another project we have getting underway, past the design process and ready to be awarded the contract, is for redoing the HVAC and the roofing on this building. The district office also is from the 70s and has a very old HVAC system. We engaged DAC architects to design that and get it through the division of the state architect. That all has been done. Bidding has been completed. And initially, we anticipated the cost to come in just under $5 million. The bid for this work is coming in about 2.9 million. There's some additional work that needs to be done as well to go with it. But in total, our construction costs for this project are coming in at just under 3.1 million ahead of budget. So we hope to stay on budget and have a smooth project running here. And it's recommended the Board of Trustees approve this contract with RC Benson and Sons. Our third item, 6.3, is another design contract. Christopher Elementary has been undergoing a number of projects. The restrooms were done this summer, and there was some work done last summer as well. And now we're looking to do the HVAC. It needs to be completely replaced. And in the process of doing that, we need to take HVAC units out of the walls. So we decided to merge in the modernization at the same time. So we're expanding the architect's contract to engage in the modernization design for Christopher Elementary and update those classrooms as well. Because so much work has been done at Christopher Elementary, this estimated budget for the classrooms themselves is $5.5 million. So the additional cost would be $552,000 to expand this contract. And lastly, 6.4, couple of projects, not as large, but Hayes is a sizable contract. It's completely replacing both playgrounds, and the fall zones will pour poured in place rubber will be the fall zones instead of those wood chips. And we're also going to be redoing the blacktop. It's deeply worn and all, so that's a project coming up for next summer. This agreement is for the playground equipment and the fall zone from Dave Bang and Associates. They'll provide the equipment, install it, and put down the fall zone. They'll also be doing the same at Del Roble. They got a new playground in the past for their main playground, but this is for Del Roble's kinder yard, which we'll be redesigning and doing a new layout, new asphalt there, and actually a new trash yard and approach from the front of the school as well. So the total cost for these projects with the civil engineering and all would be $718,000. We'll come back later with the paving contract work to do that for the playgrounds. So those are the 4 Measure P bond items we'd like to present for approval from the board.
Thank you so much. May I have a motion to approve agenda items 6.1 through 6.4 as presented?
I motion to approve action item 6.1 through 6.4 as presented.
I second.
Do we have any public comments at this time? None online and none in person. Is there any board discussion? Okay, may we have a roll call vote?
Member Yu,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Pacheco.
Aye.
Vice President Hernandez,
Aye.
President Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you so much. And that brings us to item 6.5, consideration of additional school options for Anderson Baldwin dual boundary area as presented. Associate Superintendent Evans?
We're going to present from the.
Oh, nice.
This will be a tag team presentation between Sheetal Singh and myself. We will wait for the presentation to get up there. There we go. Thank you. So this item is a discussion and consideration of additional school options for the Anderson Baldwin dual boundary area. We'll give a little bit of a background in history and some recent fact checks and number checks, as well as kind of recent things that occurred in the spring and how we came to the conclusion and community feedback that we've received. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll get into some of the history. Going back nearly 10 years when the Hitachi neighborhood was coming on board. It's called Hitachi. The Avenues is the name of the development. Charlotte neighborhood, I've heard it referred to as all 3. As that was coming online, our demographer, Tom Williams, who we still work with and still gives us annual reports, pointed out that the district had an opportunity to increase its enrollment with this new housing by up to 100 students. And the recommendation at that point was to change that boundary area to Anderson. It was originally in a Baldwin and so the board adopted that, took that action and made that into an Anderson school boundary area. But shortly, about a year later, if you can go to the next slide, you'll see that he gave his annual update, as he typically does in February and March. And the topic came up about converting that into a dual boundary at that point in time, making the attendance area not just go to Anderson, but to go to Anderson and Baldwin. And he said that was a possibility. There was some work done and research done. And in November, on the next slide, you'll see that the Board of Trustees reviewed the dual attendance and actually approved it and gave at that point the opportunity for families to attend either. The middle school, intermediate school, Bernal was always the home school for both of those elementaries, so there was no impact on the secondary. And at the time we were looking at school enrollment, capacity at Baldwin and Anderson was the best location. When it comes to proximity, there are 4 schools that are within similar proximity: Santa Teresa, Taylor, Baldwin, and Anderson. So that's what we're looking at now, and I'll let Sheetal step in. Actually, let me give a little bit of the numbers on that history there. If we can go to the next slide, that kind of shows the numbers from when this April of 2017 would have been right after this decision was made. And a little note, at that point in time, in 2017 and 2018, the TWEBE program was at Anderson. So the numbers for Anderson don't include that because we wanted it to be consistent. And you'll see over the time that Anderson has stayed relatively steady from 2017 through October of 2024. We tend to to look at April because that's our P2 numbers, but obviously we're not there yet for 2025. So we used our CBEDS date, which is the date we take attendance in October to report to the state. Baldwin also actually has grown a little bit. They peaked over and they're running in the solid 400s. But Santa Teresa and Taylor, which were running at capacity back in 2017, have been pretty steadily declining over the last several years. So this is they now have capacity. This year, I think in Santa Teresa, we had about 20 students who came in from intra-district transfers. So they actually had a tick up this year because of that. So you can see where we were in 2017, pretty steady on the Anderson Baldwin front, but dropping off on the Santa Teresa and Taylor front, which gives us capacity to rethink this boundary area, these options.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, Board of Trustees. So in addition to being your public information officer, I also have the pleasure of supporting and working with our secretaries and our sites with overseeing the enrollment process, which is why I'm here tonight in that capacity. So as Superintendent or Assistant Superintendent Evans shared, the numbers looking at the 2017, when we were originally, the board was originally looking at the boundaries, the capacity at Santa Teresa and Taylor, even though those schools are closer in distance than Baldwin, were at capacity. So that's why the board decided on Anderson and Baldwin. Looking ahead now, we are seeing the decline in enrollment for Santa Teresa and Taylor, specifically due to students aging out. So that demographic of that neighborhood is more single-family homes. Students are coming in, they're aging out our schools, and we're seeing those students now in high school and college. And if we really start looking down at projections, that slow decline is going to be continuing. So at this point, we do have an opportunity. And if we go to the next slide, this was something that our former superintendent actually started becoming in conversations with the community back in the spring. And so he met with many residents of the community asking for more school options, closer options to some of their neighbors, walking distance. And so in conversations, it was discovered last spring that there's an upwards, it could be more, but a ballpark about 50 to 70 students currently that reside in that dual attendance area that currently are attending private school. And so with the goal of having our resident students that live in our communities come to our schools, we started this conversation of looking at numbers, looking at distance. We are not the same capacity as we were 8 years ago. And so that's really kind of where this conversation stemmed from. So moving forward, we are looking at continuing the discussions, and that's really what's happened this year of let's revisit how we can get, bottom line, our resident students back into our neighborhood schools. Sure. So originally, most of our schools are tied to a boundary, right? So you live in this neighborhood, you are tied to this school. At this time, at the development happening, they had tied that boundary to Baldwin Elementary School. I'm sorry, Anderson. Realizing that some of our, if you look at that closer tip and south, we do have quite a few families that are closer to Baldwin as well. So there was an opportunity to switch the boundary from Anderson to Baldwin. At that time, the board did not want to make that decision to have to move or have families be forced into one school. So they gave them the option of a dual boundary. And basically it means all the families that reside in that area have an option to choose whether they would like to enroll in Anderson or Baldwin. So it's almost like a choice area where both schools are attached to that area and the families really get that choice of where they want to go. Correct. So in the conversations that started with Superintendent Monzo last year, it came to be that as some of the newer families were moving in, they were opting for private or charter schools. And so that's when the conversations really started happening. Like, why? What is it that you are getting over there that we are not providing. And what we're realizing, it's just lack of people understanding the options that they do actually have in Oak Grove and the opportunities and programs and the great teaching that's happening here. So if we go to the next slide. So here is just a visual sample of residents in that neighborhood, and you can see the distance is pretty close to all of those schools. So right now, the families have the option of attending Anderson or Baldwin, but what we're like the board to consider tonight is add additional school options of Santa Teresa and Taylor. And that was not an option 8 years ago, even though the distance was closer due to the capacity. So we're at that point in time now where our capacity has changed and we do have availability. So we would like to offer our families additional options in hopes of welcoming new families back into our district. So if we go to the next slide. So this is just a visual. So our families, if this passes, would have the option, and this is just to clarify, this is for new families that will be coming into our district starting the 25-26 school year onward. So they would have the opportunity to choose from Anderson, Baldwin, Santa Teresa, or Taylor. And all 4 of those schools do feed into Burnell Intermediate as well. And with this new option, we hope to retain some of those private and charter school students back into our district. They are students in our neighborhoods. And for families that are inquiring or wondering, we do already have a process in place. So if we have families in our district right now, there is a process in place through the intra-district where they can transfer to any one of our schools, whether that's program or a need or just a desire for a different environment. We do have that option. Next slide. So as part of this, we did reach out to the community. So I got to know that dual boundary neighborhood quite well, going out to the apartment complexes, the community centers, leaving flyers for our community. And we did have a community feedback meeting this past Tuesday. Thank you, Trustee Yu, for joining us virtually on the call. We had a total of 67 people join us virtually and about 30 or so families and staff members join us in person. So it was very, very well attended. We had all 4 of our prospective school principals share out what's great about their schools. We shared about the programs, the services, what each school has to offer, including their after-school options, which is very important for our working families. And I'm very, very pleased to say that we had several private school families stay afterwards and not only talk to myself, but Mr. Evans about wanting to know where they can get the registration forms and doctor's forms already in hopes to register in the as soon as our window opens. One other change that we are planning to do to welcome our students into our district is we do plan on moving up our enrollment window. So for many years in Oak Grove, our enrollment has started March 1st. We will be moving that up this year and moving forward to January 13th. We know that December and January is really when our private schools, our charter schools are recruiting our families. And so we want to get ahead of that and show them we have great options. During the community meeting, we also offered tour dates to all of our families. So we have several dozen families already signed up to take tours in our schools, and hopefully we will see a handful of new students that live in our community back in our schools this coming school year. So next slide. I think this was your-
So I'll start off, kind of talked about what the process has been. As she mentioned, Superintendent Monzo kind of started that conversation last spring. So this September, October, after we got school rolling, we started looking at the data, looking at the numbers, seeing where there was capacity. Then we had the community input meeting in person. I'd say it was a really well turned out meeting. And as we said, we estimate there are 50 to 70 students who are currently not going to our schools. What I noticed at the meeting that there are a lot of students that are potentially growing in to become members of our school too. So there is capacity there beyond those just students that we're talking right now. And I think that helps mitigate some of our decline in enrollment. It won't stop it, but it will slow it, and it will help us maintain our staffing and not downsize schools as much as the projections currently show. So I think those are some very good reasons. And then we decided to come and present this to you tonight, share it with you, and ask for whether you'd like to approve it. If so, then Sheila will get to work on registration.
Yeah. So if approved tonight, the next steps for our team is we will take this back to our secretaries, our enrollment subcommittee, and we will begin on updating our forms, adding these options, and really opening up our schools come December and January for school tours. We want our families to see what great things we have. We have exceptional teachers, exceptional staff, and we want them to come and experience what our families experience every day. And then January 13th, we will kick off registration for the 25-26 school year already.
Any questions?
That's it. Next slide.
I do have a couple of questions. First, I do want to thank Sheetal and Mark for doing a wonderful job at the meeting presentation, and the principals as well. I thought everyone did such a good job of highlighting the amazing things that happen in the district. I think my husband and I were both listening in, and as we heard, all the great programs at each of the schools, we're like, wow, maybe we should send Melody there. I mean, we love Ledesma, but really, you guys did such an awesome job highlighting all the awesomeness. In terms of like signups, is it like a first come, first serve situation? Or is there like is it a lottery, or how is that going to work?
That's a great question. That actually came up quite a bit after the meeting as well. So with this extended enrollment time, it also gives us an opportunity to welcome families and still be able to increase staffing if need be. So staffing happens in the springtime with our principals as enrollments start rolling in. And it's kind of a tight window when we were enrolling in March because we quickly have to look at what's happening. But with that extended time, we have time to see who's coming in and what our staffing currently looks like and adjust as needed. In essence, it is a first come, first serve, but we are registering all year long and we accept families into our district all year long. Yeah, and if we do have great growth with this and we have more than expected, we'll be working with Associate Superintendent Bowles to ask her for some more teachers. And that's a great problem we want to have.
Great. And then my other question is, I was curious to know who the families were that had attended the session. It did sound like there were some that were from the charter and private school communities. Do you have a sense of like how many of those families were currently attending charter or private?
So with the online report, we did get a printout of their names and their emails, but since they're not our resident families, unfortunately, we're not able to look at where they're coming from. However, with our online registration, that is a question that they do answer. What school are they coming from? The name of the school, if they're coming from charter or private. So that is data that we will collect as students are registering for the new school year.
Okay, great, thank you.
Similar question. Do we know how many students of ours go to charter or private, like students that are living in the district overall?
Since we don't have that information in our database, we don't know. So when we do the demographic report, they anticipate what the generation rates are for each house. And if we have this many, then there's a certain amount of assumption that goes to private school. I'd have to go back to the reports and look.
It's based off assumption, but there's no way to actually get that kind of data. Oh, I see. Because like it seems like it was like what you guys did, a really good outcome was just getting some families that were in private now back into our district. Was that more of like a unintended consequence or like a?
We were aware there were several students who were attending other school options. Again, they could have been charter, they could have been parochial, could have been independent schools, but we were aware of that. And like I said, my pleasant surprise was that a lot of the families were just young families. They didn't even have kids in school yet. So.
And there was actually an unexpected question around TK because there were many families with 3- and 4-year-old students that were coming looking ahead for the next year or two that haven't even registered in the K-12 system, but are currently paying for preschool. So many families stayed after to inquire, wait, what is this TK? I can start at 4. And so we are hoping that we can start entering them into our system with the 4-year-olds starting, especially with the TK age going back farther next year.
I guess maybe sort of unrelated. It was a nice event you guys did. I wonder if more similar events can happen where we can start taking some of our students back from these privatized entities. I don't know how that looks like, but that would be a really nice thing, especially if we're trying to chip away at the enrollment rates that are going down, and increase our revenues for our district. But it was nice to see that, something was successful like that.
And I think also to Trustee Yu's point, it was really wonderful to hear about the 4 schools, the great things that are going on, and that there are schools that have different personalities that might address the interests of different families.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions?
I do have a question, and I believe it overlaps with sort of what you're getting at, Trustee Yu, because I was very curious if there's one particular school that most families were interested in more than others. Just because I wanted to see how that would play out if we would eventually cap how many students we are accepting into that school. Or if that process is going to be laid out clear for those families, if let's say there is, we are over capacity. So I was just curious if there's one particular school that they're very curious about, or.
One thing that we can provide is we did offer them to sign up for tours till the end of the week. So by tomorrow, I'll be able to at least pull that tour data because we did have them designate which schools they would like to tour.
Great.
So we're happy to share that information with you. And then really, when the enrollment data starts coming in, we can bring that to a future board meeting.
Plan ahead. Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I think this is wonderfully innovative. I think this is great, and definitely agree with Member Pacheco of just going out there more. This seems to have just been a very effective way to meet our community where they're at. And yeah, I love it.
Well, thank you so much for your hard work to increase enrollment. I'm not really familiar with this area, but since you walked it a lot, is it still developing or is it still movement of people coming in? How's that area?
It's continued to develop over
Yeah,
the last-
I think there's one more phase of attached housing going in over by Costco. I think maybe another 10 units or so,
Yeah.
but it's pretty well built out.
So really, this development starts behind the Caudle area, a Safeway, if you're familiar with all that new area, all the way to Costco. So it's over the last 8 years, we've seen a lot of growth in the area, but
Thank you.
phased out.
Very nice. Thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. At this time, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the item.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any public comment online? Okay, and then in person, any further board discussion? Okay, may we have a roll call vote?
Member Yu, Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Pacheco, Vice President Hernandez,
Aye.
President Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you so much. And this brings us to action item 6.6, resolution 1488 -10/24, a resolution in support of safe and healthy infrastructure to support learning and teaching. So I have the honor of being able to present this with Vice President Hernandez. And I would like to first say how much I appreciate the Baldwin community coming out to advocate, how much I appreciate the patience from the parents, the students, and the teachers at the Baldwin community, which was our motivation for this resolution. And I'd also like to thank our administration for all of the work that they did. They definitely saw plan to action after plan to action after plan to action. They rolled with all the punches. They heard all the advocacy, and they did everything that they could with what they had and the systems that were in place. With that being said, I would like to apologize on behalf of myself on the board because of the time that it took to address this and look at ways to reinvent the wheel and support our infrastructure. When I joined the board, I think a big thing for me was don't reinvent the wheel, trust in the process and see what we have. And in doing so, I feel like I might have let administration down, right? And they felt like maybe they couldn't lean on us to be able to remedy these issues or look into these issues. And so my apologies. I'm very happy to be able to present this resolution and do something that hasn't been done before in this district, because we are seeing an issue that we have not previously in this district, which is our failing infrastructure. So a little bit about this resolution. What it would do specifically is establish a standing environmental infrastructure safety committee. And what that would do is a few things. It would first identify a third-party vendor separate from contracted affiliates with Oak Grove School District. And what they would do is they would come in and provide health inspections at a minimum of every 3 years. And we've decided this for a couple of reasons, right? We see our infrastructure and we have our management plans and things of that nature, our master plans for our HVACs and our electricity. But oftentimes there are unforeseen circumstances. We have storms, we have things like that where our systems fail before those master plans say that they will. So we want to be able to provide a proactive plan and foresight to things like that. They would also be in charge of reviewing facility inspections tool, and then have those results every fall recommended for the board review. They would also appoint a community liaison who will work with our stakeholders, who are our teachers, ASME, our students, and the people who are on the ground. And the reason for that is we want to be able to identify in real time for our stakeholders who are actually at these sites and actually experiencing these sites. We want feedback, and we want to know what is the issue at your site and how do we prioritize, right? And so we would have a community liaison for that. They would also be in charge of reviewing current sustainability practices and propose policy recommendations. They would also advocate and evaluate infrastructure proposals and updates. And then the last thing they would do is present the findings to the board for regular recommendation and approval. So I'm hoping that with the pass of this resolution, we can go ahead and bring in this committee, and so that we don't see issues like our Baldwin sites. We don't have such a stressed point for our teachers, our students, and also administration. We can take some of that weight off and go ahead and make sure that we're proactive with our infrastructure here at schools. So with that, I would like to also thank my colleague, Trustee Hernandez, who also worked tirelessly on this resolution. I'd like to pass it over to her.
Thank you so much, President Gonzalez. And again, thank you for your leadership for getting just this conversation started and what does this look like. There's so many things that we do already as a district to respond to the different issues that impact infrastructure and the well-being within classrooms. But again, we were still seeing that somewhere along the way, it was that communication or feedback loop that wasn't meeting the needs as fast as things were happening. And so again, the Baldwin conversation and just different conversations as we really are, we had some of the hottest weeks that we've ever had these past couple months. All of that just really was the impetus to writing something down and really institutionalizing it in our board policy. President Gonzalez and I were able to do a deep dive into the research out there, but also the current board policy that exists. And we really couldn't find any that related to the infrastructure. There was one policy that did exist that it states that the board recognizes the importance of reliably safe, nurturing, and healthy physical environments, but there wasn't really much mention of what does that look like or some more specific direction. And so I think part of us proposing this resolution was being a little bit more specific of what does that look like, what does that feel like for our classrooms and our buildings. I would say there's 3 themes that maybe came about our research and again, the important critical discussions with administration. One, was just the basic stability of like infrastructure. So like, are they sound buildings and equipment that we're using? But then too, the psychological safety was something that the research was mentioning a lot, right? Like, are we using natural light? What type of light bulbs are we using? Are they more conducive to learning? The sound levels of certain equipment or other just different details, air quality, just all these other details and factors within the buildings, and within just the learning environment that we're coming through with the research. And so we wanted to lay that out, that as a board, if passed, this is what we believe in and this is what we find to be critical for us to consider when we're thinking of our infrastructure. And then the last theme was the climate resiliency of just how do we proactively, whether it's building trees for shade, right, drought resistant trees for shade, taking a look at what materials are we using so that as we continue to get into even hotter weather, or if we have a crazy amount of rain once again, what does that look like for us, and how do we kind of keep up with global warming? And so with all that, that's where it led us to really fundamentally, the foundation of this resolution is just to build that safety committee to take a look at these environmental factors and this infrastructure. So again, just thank you so much, President Gonzalez, for your leadership. I really appreciated the time. There were so many different elements that we were also able to explore, so we were able to grow as board members as well. And I'll be happy to entertain any questions or points of clarification from the board.
I think it might be in order to have a motion first.
Oh, sure.
May I have a motion?
Move to approve Resolution 1488-10/24, a resolution of support of safe and healthy infrastructure to support learning and teaching.
I second.
Thank you so much. Do we have any public comment at this time? Okay, and that moves to
Question.
board discussion.
This is a great resolution, great idea. I fully support it. How will it interact with the existing safety committee that we have already?
So I think that's a very good question. I think that there definitely should be some collaboration, and that's something that we can impose. Yeah. We're open to suggestions as well.
Are there overlapping responsibilities?
I think when it comes to like infrastructure, maybe inside of the classrooms, things like when we talk about the Baldwin classrooms and how we're looking to close them in and things of that nature. Yeah, there would be some overlap.
I do see them though as separate, for the most part, separate committees. I think just the themes that they're looking at are just very different. Where the safety, I was thinking more like behavior. And yes, we do take into consideration like different cameras and maybe the layout of plans, like what is safest for our students when emergencies were to happen. But I think this infrastructure, it's more focused on a variety of things that maybe the safety committee wouldn't hit. So I was initially thinking of it as separate.
Thank you to you both for bringing this resolution forward. I do think it's an important one, and I appreciate, the thoughtfulness. I like all the research citations that really ground this resolution. In terms of the Environmental Infrastructure Safety Committee, I guess who do you envision to be a part of this committee aside from that third-party vendor and then the district liaison or the liaison?
Sure. So ideally, the third-party vendor would not be a part of the community. The committee, he would be somebody that we would go forward and choose and hire separately from the committee. Just for that point of clarification. So we would call for our community stakeholders, which would be more than likely our AFSCME community, as well as the teachers, principals, and then maybe even some students. But the idea is we want to have administration meet with people who are in those sites to be able to have that feedback.
Great. I mean, I think this is a great prevention effort, right? In terms of making sure that we are, or there's a system in place for us to review the infrastructure. I like that it just reaffirms our commitment in prioritizing the health and the safety of our students and staff, because physical environment is super important. Our buildings are aging, and so I think this is a great resolution. Thank you.
Cool. So, yeah, thank you. I like the proposed action you got here. Just quick question. I support it. What will be like the timeline after this? That's my first question. Like, what's the process after this, and all that. Secondly, I forgot my second question, but will they be working with like the architects, or will they be doing anything involved with the architects that are already putting things in place? That's my second concern.
I think that's where the committee, again, the idea is that there's just a better flow of communication. So if there's feedback, but the idea behind this resolution isn't to interrupt any of the work that's already started or to halt any of that work. It's more of just even creating some sort of board direction or board policy of what the ideal work would look like. And then we aspire to reach that as much and as often as we can. As far as the timeline, I think the appointing the community liaison, well, actually, let me go back to the committee itself. In the resolution, it says no later than May 2025 that this standing committee will be established. And then from there, that's for the committee to decide also who, like that community liaison. We wanted to leave it vague enough where there wasn't as much financial implications, and so that the committee can really come up with who would that community liaison be that would best represent them. And so that part doesn't read like we're hiring an outside community liaison, but it's more of like who from here within our community could, just express that sort of feedback and help that feedback loop. So I would say that's where the committee would then put into place this action plan, starting by May 2025.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further board discussion. Maybe have a roll call vote.
Member Yu,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Pacheco,
Aye.
Vice President Hernandez,
Aye.
President Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. And so that closes out our action items and moves us to item 7, information items, specifically 7.1, California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, 2024 results. Assistant Superintendent Anna?
Hi, thank you, Superintendent Chides, President Gonzalez, and members of the board. Tonight we'll be sharing with you the results from state testing, our CASP results. These results, we usually get them in the late summer as preliminary data, and then as they finalize, we see them as embargoed data, so it's not released to the public until mid-October, and they were released last week. Maybe I should back up a little bit. I'm a little too loud. So the state release with CASP data was last week. So what you'll see tonight is our district CASP results, and that is for English language arts, mathematics, and we're presenting as well our science test. And we'll see that for future, the science test called the CAST will be part of our dashboard data. So we wanted to share with you a little bit about that. We're 3 years deep with our CASP testing post-COVID. So we have trend results, and we have we'll be sharing with you a little bit about comparisons across the schools and some highlights. But just to review, for language arts, we did show, you'll see that we have a little bit of a dip in our language arts percentage of students who are proficient, students who are meeting or exceeding standard, We were also 1% lower than the statewide scores. We do have some schools with bright spots, Baldwin and Ledesma School, where both had increases of 6%. So that's exciting. We'll also show you our math. Overall percentage went up 1%, and we're 6% higher than the state in math. Also, Baldwin and Ledesma showed some bright spots, as well as Oak Ridge with 8% at Baldwin increase and 6% at Ledesma, 5% at Oak Ridge. With science, we definitely had some schools with huge growth in science. So we have Hayes and Stipe and Indigo, Anderson, all between 5 and 11% increases. Baldwin and Ledesma, 16 and 20% increases in science. So we're excited to share with you this data. I'm going to invite up to the podium Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, Dr. Patricia Mondragon-Dotti, and we'll give you the clicker so you can advance the slides.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. Good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and see if this technology.
It's here.
Oh, it's here.
Okay.
Will work.
And I'm not even able to advance it. There we go.
Okay. Oh. Hopefully you can see it on your screens as well. All right, so just as Assistant Superintendent Anna mentioned, we're going to be diving deep into data.
It's hard to hear you, sorry.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to be diving deep into data, and I'm going to go ahead and go over the slides pretty briefly. But if you have any questions at the end, I definitely can go ahead and share more information. As you know, we're going to be talking about English language arts, science, mathematics, and also LPAC. We do go ahead and support our students with making sure that they have practice with the interim test and also the practice test with all of the different functions within what it is to have those technical skills to be able to even complete the test. We've already shared that with our teachers through our CIA newsletter. And because they're all so very different, it does take some time to be able to go ahead and provide the students with that instruction for them to get familiar with each of those tests. So that's where we have the universal tools, designated support that we go ahead and make sure that the students are assigned through the CASP and through the CAST tests.
Yeah. Will you just tell me to change the slides?
Oh,
It's not.
it's not.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, thanks. All right. I'm going to go ahead and look over here then. Demographics. That was a question last year. So I wanted to make sure to go ahead and provide to you the county and the state demographics. As you can see, we do fare more closely to the county numbers. When we're looking at, for example, our English language arts all the way to the right, our percentage is 25% of English language learners. The state's is 18. I'm sorry, we do fare more to the state than the county. Let's see here. For English language learners, we have more English language learners than the state and the county. For socioeconomic disadvantaged students, we have more students at that demographics with 41%. If we round it up, it's 42 compared to the county of 36. So that's just giving you a very broad view of all our demographic groups. And we did desegregate the data to be able to share with you how each of them fared in the different state tests. Okay, so this is the English language arts comparison. I provided to you the state, the county, and OGSD. As you can see, we were 1% shy away from the state. We are a bit away from the county, but that is due to the demographic changes. And I also wanted to go ahead and acknowledge that this is one snapshot. This is one of the assessments that we do use to go ahead and provide the continuous improvement plans that we have in place. For example, the LCAP, the SIPSA for all of the different sites. So it does not give the full picture of everything that our staff is doing, that our students have the capacity of doing and the potential to go ahead and do so many things. Sorry, you're not able to see it that well, huh? Yeah, okay, good. So in this, the one highlight that I wanted to go ahead and share with you is that last year's 8th grade students did increase 2% points. For the others, we desegregated it by grade level. So that supports us with really understanding how, for example, 4th grade students are doing compared to other grades, and the support that we as a district, as a site, are needing to provide our staff and students. Here, we desegregated it by demographics. I wanted to highlight just the big difference in percentage when we're talking about American Indian or Alaskan Native students compared to the state and the county. That's huge. With the other demographics, we can see there then the comparison of the last 3 years, as Assistant Superintendent mentioned. So we have that data to be able to track and seeing where are the dips, where are the things that are staying plateaued, they're not changing. So there we can see that for some of them, for example, for white students, there was no change. It stayed at 62%. 2 or more races dipped down 1%. Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islanders did dip a bit. Hispanic and Latino dipped 1%. So again, this is able to go ahead and tell us that there are some trends that we need to address, right? Through the curriculum, through the instruction, and being able to support the teachers. One great thing that OGA President Luis mentioned was the SAVAS training that's coming up November 1st. So again, based on these data, these numbers, and also the feedback from the principals, we already know where we're going to go ahead and target to be able to highlight with the SAVAS instruction. Our 2 groups of socioeconomic disadvantaged students and English language learners. There I also put the data for the last 2 years. So the orange numbers are 22, 23. The green numbers are last year, 23 and 24. For socioeconomic disadvantage, we didn't move, we stayed at 33%. You compare that data to county, you compare it to state. It's a lot, like Dolores Huerta mentioned. You've done a lot, you've done so much work. Well, guess what? There's more work to do. So this tells us that there is. For English language learners, if we look at the state, the county, the district, I wish those numbers were different, but that is what it is. And that is one of the measurements that are going to help us make sure that we're supporting our English language learners. But as you can see, we did do better in 22, 23 than the state average. Here we have the data of the CASP ELA pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. We also have the data as cohorts. So there you can see we increased 2% last year, again, with that 8th grade cohort of group of students. Pre-pandemic, when we compared our district percentages to the state, we were sometimes 2% difference, 4% difference. Post-pandemic, you can see there that the first year we were 3% different. Second year, 1% different. And then this last year, we dipped 1 percent point. Here we have the English language arts by gender. For English language arts, we do see a 6% higher number of females that did better in English language arts compared to males. And there's the male information. And there's the information from the last 3 years. And here we have it by school. The top percents is just highlighting the schools that did increase this past year compared to the previous year. So there we have Baldwin with 6%, Bernal with 1%, Frost with 3%, Indigo 1%, Ledesma 6%, and Oak Ridge 4%. So this is where we talk about the SIPSAs, the plans for each of the schools, and seeing what we can go ahead and collaborate and learn from each other, and seeing what the gains are and what best practices were put in place to get these gains. There was another question the previous year about iReady and how it fares to the CASP scores. So I wanted to also share that with you from last year to the previous year. Now that also is an understanding of the data to make sure that it also helps us understand that iReady does provide us with personalized instruction and a lot of tools within that. But again, that is one assessment, and it doesn't correlate to how students will be faring in the CASP. For math, same images here. But if you look at the math comparison with Oak Grove School District and the state, that's a pretty big difference there. So for grade levels, we see more grade levels. We have 5th grade, 6th grade, and 8th grade that did increase. And there you have the comparisons for state and county on the bottom. Also here, the passing rates by race. More pluses on the top there. Socioeconomic disadvantaged and English language student data. Again, we did much better with our socioeconomic disadvantaged students compared to the state. English language learners increased there as well. Cohort data. Last year's 7th graders increased by 1. Last year's 6th graders increased by 2. Pre-pandemic data, post-pandemic. For gender with math, it flip-flopped. Our females dipped 6%, are 6% less meeting and exceeding compared to males. And there we have the pluses by a site. Many more pluses there. So we know that our students are faring much better in math, and this is before the SAVAS and Vision adoption. Again, the correlation between iReady and CASP. For science, looking at us compared to the state, that's a big difference right there. Socioeconomic disadvantage and English language learners were faring much, much better than the state. And look at how we fared with the county last year. County was at 25%, we're at 26%. LPAC data. almost 17% of our students were at level 4, compared to the county, 15%. I'm sorry, compared to the state, 15%. The county, were the same if we round those numbers. So now with all of that, what are the actions that we need to go ahead and have to provide, again, that continuous improvement? Support our students with making sure that they are confident and comfortable with the way that they're being assessed. This is, again, a snapshot within the year. And if they do not receive that support of practicing with those different tools and on online data like the platform that we have for CASP and CAST, then it is going to be a bit challenging for them. So the more time that we're able to go ahead and provide to them for them to feel more comfortable, the better. Support the sites with analyzing their data and making sure that what they have in their SIPSA plans, they're able to go ahead and implement. Prepare for the new pilot for ELA, which is this coming year. And continues to strengthen the implementation of math and TWIG, our new science adoption that we just had last year. Our multi-tiered systems of support, again, there's a lot of information there, but we have the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, and that is our guiding resources that we have for all of the sites. So that is the presentation. I know it's a lot of numbers, but I wanted to give you more information than not, so you can, really digest it. And I'm here to answer any questions or the team.
I do have a question. Um, I think in regards, my question is more about the multi-tiered systems of support slide. Because, and this is a question, comment, kind of in response to the ELA data, right? And also, because I know we have an ELA adoption coming up soon, but looking at the different tiers, I see that in tier 2 and tier 3, you have Sunday and Haggerty as curriculum to use for SPED. Is that correct? For SPED only?
Haggerty is general ed and Sunday is SPED, yeah.
And then I see for your tier 1, you guys are using, guided reading, things like that. I'm curious what the rationale is for kind of this misalignment in terms of the literacy approaches, because you have balanced literacy for tier 1, but then you kind of have this like structured literacy approach for some groups.
I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question? You're wondering what the misalignment is between
the approach to literacy instruction, right? Because there is a mismatch, right? For tier 1 core, you guys are doing more of a balanced literacy, the whole guided reading, leveled readers approach. And then for tier 2 and tier 3, you're offering certain groups, like a structured literacy approach.
Right. So everybody, the tier 1, that's what everybody's receiving in terms of instruction. And and Haggerty phonemic awareness is actually a tier 1 strategy for our primary grades, TK through second. We do have Haggerty Bridge the Gap intervention. So all of the tier 1, the yellow and the red, tier 2 and tier 3 are interventions. So they're in addition to what's happening in tier 1. So when students are struggling in their reading and all of these, all of the curriculum and the strategies that we're using with them aren't enough, then we move to additional tier 2 instruction.
I see. I guess, I would like to know where the district is, I guess, in terms of learning about the science of reading and, possibly exploring whether the science of reading and structured literacy would be a good approach to help strengthen and support our ELA instruction. And I think this is a good time, especially as you guys look into a new ELA adoption.
Yeah, that's a great question. So really we've been historically a balanced literacy district, and more and more over the last couple of years, we've been more of having a central approach. So our primary and curriculum and primary instruction, CKLA, is phonics based. The science of reading philosophy is included in that. We do teach explicit phonics instruction in the primary grades. What we saw after COVID coming back is that students in third grade and up were also needing some additional support with phonics. And traditionally, that's not part of the curriculum in third grade and up. So that's why we brought in the Bridge the Gap Heggerty intervention program, because it does teach small group instruction and phonemic awareness and phonics to students in third grade and up. It's a little bit more developmentally appropriate, and it bridges that gap. So what we're doing, providing professional development, and we have been, is not only in CKLA, but in guided reading groups, in addition to that, skills-based groups. So students who need additional small group support, it could be guided reading, but also changing up the approach to that small group and providing students with specific skills to teach them explicitly the how-tos of reading and the English language. So moving forward, what we do have is our district curriculum team. Our district curriculum team is representatives from all of the schools, and they come together monthly with our CIA team to kind of tackle some of these things, like what are the struggles in literacy? What are the struggles in math? We focused on math for a couple of years, kind of laid the foundation for our math pilot process and adoption. And right now we're laying the framework for the upcoming ELA. So part of that is developing a district literacy vision. And that literacy vision will highlight kind of what we want. What do literacy classrooms look like in Oak Grove School District? What we want students to be able to do and to experience in the literacy environment, and be able to leave here with when they go to high school. How we want them to be deep readers, to be able to, read long form texts and be able to think critically. So all of that preparation, the professional development, and prepping for a new adoption, getting a comprehensive curriculum. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, thank you. That comment is very timely, because we will be starting our district curriculum implementation teams. And the first thing that we're going to be tackling is, what is it that we want in this new curriculum, and what are the needs based on the data? And not only that, but what we currently have offering, right? And yes, Heggerty is right there with the tier 2. And one of the things that we're going to really lean in on is the English language arts and ELD framework.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to learning more about the literacy vision in upcoming meetings. I know I kind of went on like a little tangent off the slides, but I'm happy to see that Baldwin and Ledesma did show an increase in their data. Was there anything different that those schools did compared to like the other schools?
Well, that is the next conversation that we'll be having, especially since these data points were just released. Again, visiting their SIPSA plans that they've already implemented, seeing what actions they actually were able to go ahead and do last year, and then being able to see what programs if any, or the tier 2 programs that they use to be able to support the students in making those gains. And again, because this is just one of the assessments, we're going to be looking at the other ones and to see where is there a correlation where we're able to see the gains also in other areas.
And then my last question is for our Spanish dual immersion students, do they take the California Spanish assessment?
Yes, yes, we do have data from one of our schools for 2 years already in a row, and then the other school for 1 year, and then the other school is going to start this year with the California Spanish assessment. And the exciting part about that, sorry, is that we're able to go ahead and compare our dual language programs with other schools. Now, the different levels, we just compared it very quickly, and we did do much better than the state average.
We can share that data with you as well.
There's a question for Trustee Yu. So, balanced literacy, guided reading. Isn't guided reading kind of getting left behind and more of a characteristic of tried and but maybe not so true methods that may not actually meet the needs, even though it is differentiated literacy instruction, it may not actually meet the needs of readers, especially if they're in lower tier of MTSS?
So I think the difference between balanced literacy and structured literacy is that structured literacy has a systematic and sequential approach to phonics and reading development, right? You're starting from foundational skills and you're really building up the different skills and strategies that the students need to be successful readers in the long term. With balanced literacy, it's not bad, right? I don't want to say balanced literacy or guided reading is bad by any means, but it doesn't work for all readers. And I think there's research that shows that it doesn't work for all readers. Whereas with the explicit literacy or structured literacy approach, you're catching more of the students. So that's why I would encourage our Ed Services team to really dive into learning more about the science of reading. It's not a curriculum, it's not a program, right? It's really this body of research to inform us about how students learn to read and best practices around instruction. I lost my train of thought. Oh, the other thing I want to say is I think when people hear science of reading or structured literacy, the first thing they think about is just phonics instruction, but it's really more than that, right? It's word recognition and language comprehension together. And how do we as a district really make sure that we are providing solid instruction in both of those strands? And so that is something that I would like the district to really shore up on and to just learn more about as we do that.
Trustee Hernandez and I just looked it up too. So phonics is really third grade is kind of where phonics instruction is supposed to stop, right?
Yeah, like when we think about just kind of like foundational, like letter name, letter sound correspondences, like our decoding, like all of our phonics rules and spelling patterns. And then once you get to 4th, 5th grade, it's more about morphology, where you're learning about different syllable types and word parts and how those word parts really contribute to word meaning and comprehension down the line.
So now going to the SBAC data then, it was said that we're a balanced literacy district, right?
Traditionally, we've been a balanced literacy district, but we have more of a central or centrist approach between balanced literacy and structured literacy. So we're not just balanced literacy anymore.
And it's clear that you're in the process of analyzing why certain school sites made growth, trying to understand what they did differently that led to that growth. I'm also interested in knowing which districts have historically not shown growth over the years. Every year, either showing stagnation or decreases. And I would like to know not only the names of those school sites, but also what we've been doing to target support for those school sites over the last 4 years. Or maybe since the last 3 years, since that's the data that we have for CASP. So and I hope that the explanation or excuse isn't just demographics. So that is a request I would like to make.
Okay, we'll get that for you.
And I'm sorry that if anything in the presentation you thought that there was the excuse. It is not an excuse because of our demographics. What helps us with the data and desegregating it based on the demographics and race is seeing where we need to do better, right? For one of the things that as we're analyzing the data is, why did our 8th graders do better compared to our other grades, right? Was it that they were receiving ethnic studies for one of their electives, right? So those are just wondering questions that definitely we'll dive deep into, but definitely it's a way to be able to really analyze everything. But again, knowing that this is just one of the things that tells a piece of the story, not the entire story.
I understand that, but it is an important piece of data that convinces parents to either stay or leave the district. So I really, it's important for me. And I know it's important for all of us. Yeah.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I just had a quick clarifying question. Maybe I heard wrong. You mentioned that the jump in our math numbers was prior to the math curriculum adoption?
Yes.
Okay, and so when will we start to see the results of that adoption?
So the adoption for Savas and Vision just started this year. Last year, we piloted it. So we will be seeing it already this year.
Okay, when is like the soonest, I don't know, benchmark test or something that we can
Probably for let's see, for intermediate schools, they're not only also using the curriculum, but they're also using Success Maker. So even this October, we already have data for them. If it's an intermediate level student, but for the elementaries, that would be window 2 of iReady, because iReady is currently our benchmark.
And when is window 2 coming?
That would be January, February, March time.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. And then can we get the data for intermediate?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. I just like to see how we're doing with adoption.
I think the board also has expressed an interest in the past of seeing more data in throughout the year. So not even just waiting for like the larger assessments that we do, but even some of the, even if it's just within classrooms, like what kind of data are they capturing or measurements or assessments that they're doing. I think we're really trying to be a little bit more strategic with how we analyze our data and kind of make our moves like that. And so having the data kind of presented throughout the school year and not just at certain, parts of the school year when it gets released. I think that's something that that we're interested in. And then I wanted to just echo also Trustee Hughes and Member Pacheco's sort of discussion up here. I don't have a formal comment right now because truthfully, I don't know all the science behind the science of reading. But we've had some other partners that I work with. We've been having some early conversations of how a lot of the science approaches a lot of the reading approaches that we've done in our schools, they've been debunked with like cognitive science evidence out there. And so I think that's a lot of what you were alluding to, Member Yu. And so I do think we're going to start to see a direction or like a shift away maybe from what we've been doing in terms of, reading for the last 50 or so years. I don't know what that looks like. I'm still diving in the research. I might join a book club to really start to understand what this research says. But I do encourage us, and then I'll share resources too as we kind of us that are in the education space as we kind of figure out what that means for us.
Yeah, and just to add to what you had mentioned prior to that, especially when it comes to our new curriculums, I would like to see data going forward because some of it is adoption for the students, right? But in the very beginning, I think we can definitely track the adoption of our teachers, right? Like how well they're being able to adopt the materials if they have the adequate training. Which like I heard some feedback around science, they love the curriculum, they're having a hard time adopting and they're having a hard time getting the support and the training. So that's something that I'd like to be able to track going forward, especially when we have new adoptions like math and science.
I can speak to the current math adoption. We're able to see the engagement that the teachers have with the adoption electronically, and also the student. So the data that we're able to capture is very, very meaningful to see the implementation level.
Very nice, thank you.
Maybe next board meeting.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well, it was a lot of information and thank you for your hard work. But just one thing that I just want to just share and that I noticed is just like before, I think when we saw this a couple of years when I first started here, just the by race, the Black and Africans, Hispanic, Latinos always that dip. And do you believe that this new curriculum is going to make them to the 50%? Is it the curriculum or is it just the way who's teaching them? Because for example, my son struggled a lot with how he was being taught. It took me like 3-4 tutors just to get that right one that knew how to engage with him. So I don't know if it's, I don't know, I'm just trying to see if is it the curriculum like it's gonna move these numbers up, or do they need extra support in the classrooms, like like maybe 2 teachers, or maybe an outside tutoring? Like how could we, I'm just trying to share my thoughts and see how I could help and maybe raise these numbers up. I don't know, what's your idea on that?
First, I want to say that I definitely commend the grit that not only our teachers have, but our students, having gone through so many transitions post-pandemic, right? And there's definitely some factors that are out of our control sometimes as educators, but the ones that we can control are what's happening within the classroom. So the first thing, Trustee Martinez, that you mentioned is class size. Well, yeah, in a perfect world, if we were to have the means to bring down the numbers, especially when we're talking about upper grade students whose experience in the primary grades was COVID time, yes. When we look at our current group of 8th grade students right now, what years did they experience the pandemic? Those primary years, right? Those foundational skills that they were supposed to have, that connection with their classmates in the classrooms to be able to have the skills to communicate, to collaborate. So there are some things that as educators, there's a lot of heavy lifting going on, right? To tell you this is the magic wand and we can fix it by just doing this one thing, no. The one thing is that it's very hopeful for me to see the new curriculum coming to play. And that was a lot of work from ESD to be able to go ahead and pilot, get the collaboration, get the feedback from the teachers, and come to a consensus for one of the pilot programs. Envision Savas is definitely a game changer in the way that the engagement from the teacher to the curriculum is very, very different. The engagement to the students is extremely different. The first thing we wanted to ask is, do they like Success Maker? Because Success Maker is replacing iReady for math in the intermediate grade levels. And like Assistant Superintendent Anna mentioned, we're going to a centric approach for literacy and reading. So we do have the opportunity to also desegregate the data for balanced literacy approach and Heggerty, because that has been one of our options for tier 2 supports, right? So we've just started diving into the data. We do have a new data systems, as I'm sure you remember, approving one of PowerSchool. So we're also working with that as well. And the important thing is going to be really analyzing school by school, the actions that were able to be completed, because one thing is to write up a SIPSA, a site plan for school achievement, and then the other one is executing it with all of the hurdles that sites have throughout the year, whether it be staff shortage or other issues in managing classroom behaviors and so on, right? So I'm just letting you know that we are going to dive deeper into data this year and being able to share that with you, and really, like President Gonzalez mentioned, tracking the progress, especially when we have TWIG as a new curriculum and math as a new curriculum. The big one that we're already starting to work on is English language arts, because as you saw, where did we do best? In math. Where did we not do the best? Is in English language arts. Even getting us back to pre-pandemic scores might take us a couple of years. But again, continuous improvement. Once we know better, we have to do better.
Just thank you so much for all the work you do. I know that you guys are going to dive deep in the analysis and then and I think with the new curriculum, it'll probably take us a couple of years actually to really see the impact of it on student learning. I don't think we'll see that in the first year. In fact, what I typically see is that there's sometimes a dip in data in first year of implementation as people are still rusty or like learning how to adopt. There's not fidelity or there's some variety of factors. But hopefully by year 2 or 3, which I know is so far away, we don't want to wait.
We want it to be now,
I
right?
know.
Especially with the data
That's not how
points.
things work. So, but
Yeah,
the analysis will get us there though.
perfect. Thank you. Any other questions?
Comment, sorry. No other questions. Thank you so much again. It's more of just a comment for the board. I'm wondering if we should just have a permanent, like a standing agenda item where we can just review different academic progress. And whether it's short and sweet and it's just a couple different classrooms, whatever that might look like, it doesn't have to be as extensive as the one tonight, but just like a standing information item. I think we might have talked about this before where we can just see continuously. And I would say across all different subjects, but I think I would be really interested to just, again, just get an understanding of the different data that we're seeing. Of course, these larger pieces of data are important as well, but yeah. So I'm wondering if we can add that to the agenda. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you so much for your presentation. And yeah, we will look at adding that to our information item and we can work with Assistant Superintendent Anna to be able to add that. That wraps up our information items and brings us to item 8, correspondence and board discussion. We can hear from the board members regarding any correspondence, individual or organizational. Are there any at this time? Oh, the only board correspondence I have, Superintendent Chaidez touched on it. We were able to visit Indigo. Such a wonderful program and community through and through. We were able to meet with their student government body, which was very impressive. We were able to kind of impart our some of our wisdom and then also learn from them, which was very helpful. And then we visited Baldwin. I went for the HVAC and to see how the system was holding up. But while I was there, I was able to have the honor to be able to sit down with Principal Loper as she actually held a restorative justice circle during lunchtime with some of her students, which I thought was very impressive, especially when I do these visits and the visit to Baldwin was very impromptu. I called the morning of and said, hey, I'm stopping over. Don't panic. I'm just here to check out the HVAC to see how things run organically. And that's why I like to do my school visits kind of impromptu. I like to give a little heads up, but I do enjoy an impromptu visit because to see that organically, and what I mean by that is she had already created this group prior. It was a bunch of kids that were having some kind of conflict with kickball. So she brought them all in, sat them all at a table during their lunchtime, and she taught them how to advocate, how to vote, how to work in sort of a democracy and things of that nature. And to have these restorative circles and to do them on her lunch break and kind of impromptu and put that together was so impressive. So I just want to say thank you so much to Principal Ober. It was an amazing experience, and I hope that that's something that can be taken on across all of our schools. So if we have no other board discussion.
Oh, I would like to go to Frost next Wednesday or Friday. If there's any other trustees that want to accompany me, I am interested in checking out some SDCs, some special education classrooms. So
Friday.
Friday, yeah, Friday could probably work for me. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody and ask the admin if they can set that up sometime next Friday. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so that brings us to adjournment. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you so much. The regular board meeting on October 17th, 2024 is adjourned at 8:15 PM.